Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching me play Last Epoch. So today I just want to go over the build that I've been doing so far in Last Epoch. It's been a while since I've made a video. I've just been blasting, I was blasting PoE2, and then I moved over to Last Epoch when it released, and now I've been doing Last Epoch for a while. And I finally kind of settled into the character I want to play, and I have been playing in Last Epoch. So we are Heartseeker Rogue, or Marksman more specifically. And we're a damage over time variant is what I finally settled on. It took me a while. I actually went through a few different things. I tried doing bleed and physical first. I didn't really like it. I then tried doing crit cold damage. I tried fire damage before that. In fact, I tried fire damage. I didn't really like the fire damage variant. I then went to cold damage, and I was originally trying to do crit with cold damage. I didn't really like that. Building for it, the gear for it was kind of, it was too much, and it wasn't as good as clear, and all sorts of things like that. So finally, what I've settled on is using Frostbite. Here we have about 622 Frostbite damage, and about 164% chance to inflict it. That is actually quite a lot higher for various other things, but at a base rate, it's 164% chance, and we're doing 622 damage per Frostbite per tick. Which is not insignificant, because we're pretty consistently getting about 300 to 700 stacks of Frostbite on the target, depending on how beefy the target is. Currently, my freeze rate multiplier is 689. We want to get that a bit higher, ideally above 1,000. The reason we want to get it above 1,000 is because of 1% cold penetration with Frostbite per 10% freeze rate multiplier. So if you hit 1,000 freeze rate multiplier, you have 100% pen on the cold for your Frostbite. Obviously, higher is better, but I think I'm probably going to end at about 1,100, I think, is where the end game build is going to go. I'm going to go over things a bit more in order now. Alright guys, so before I start this video, this is me from the future. It took me a long time to go through all of the things. I go quite in depth in everything I did. Arguably too far in depth, so I'm going to give you a very quick TLDR at the start of the video, so if you just want to watch that, you can watch that and then leave. But the main thing that I am doing is I am using Heartseeker as my main ability. I am triggering Puncture with Heartseeker, so we're leveling Heartseeker and we're leveling Puncture. We're doing a cold damage Heartseeker, so you take control of the icicles, turn it into a cold damage spell. And then we're doing damage over time. So I don't really care about crit. We just want to get a bunch of recurve. So we're hitting a lot of times and we want to be applying a bunch of statuses, specifically Frostbite, Bleed, Poison, anything that does damage over time. And then we're stacking damage over time. That's the basic idea of the build. Puncture is very good for clear. After we kill an enemy with Heartseeker, it shoots out a bunch of punches. Those punches are very, very good at locking onto the target. So we'll kill all the other enemies and that's good for clear. And then for single target, we're doing mainly Heartseeker and we're just doing a bunch of damage over time stacks. That's the general idea. We also have Shift, just for movement speed. We have the node that triggers shurikens when we shift, and the main thing shurikens are used for is Blade Shield, so we can actually stop the damage. And then we are using Smoke Bomb as well. The main reason Smoke Bomb is here is for the buffs that it gives you just generally, as well as the fact that it cleanses. We're also cleansing with Shift, so generally speaking, any ailments on us are going to get cleansed. We don't have to worry about them whatsoever. And we have a fair amount of damage and damage mitigation with these three here. As far as my bar, you'll notice that I have decoy on the bar. That's because I don't need puncture on the bar, because I don't need to directly trigger it ever, because it's getting triggered by Heartseeker. So we've got decoy here just for when there's single target or a bunch of mobs and you just want to get the aggro off you. I don't use it all that often. I pretty much use it against exiled mages and bosses. That's about it. Yeah, as for passive tree, I'll give you a quick rundown of it. There, you can pause and look to see what we're getting. The main thing are damage over time in this tree, as well as dexterity wherever we can get it. We want to stack dexterity, and this is the tree for marksman as well. As I said, pause where you need to. And then items, we're using Snowblind, Woven Flesh. The chest piece doesn't really matter all that much. I just happen to get quite lucky with a 3 LP drop of Woven Flesh, which is why I'm using it, because crit immunity is quite good to have just on your chest piece for free. But you can replace this chest piece with pretty much anything. You want a fair amount of armor, but other than that, it can be anything. We're using Gathering Fury. It is worth noting that you get better clear on this build if you use Reign of Winter. However, Reign of Winter is much harder to get with more than one LP, as you can see here. I have a bunch of 1 LPs. getting 2 or 3 LP on a Rain of Winter is much harder than getting 3 LP on a Gathering Fury. And I feel like single target with Gathering Fury is actually a bit better than it is with Rain of Winter. But your clear is definitely better with Rain of Winter because these icicles do a lot of work. As for the quiver, we're using Troaka's Teeth, which gives us a bunch of freeze rate multiplier, a bunch of frostbite. It's very, very good for this build. Amulet, we've got Apostate Sanctuary. That's mainly for the vitality and the extra health from the vitality. Damage against bosses is also quite nice. We have belt and rings, I haven't really done yet, so ignore them. Boots, we're using Snowdrift. Snowdrift is very, very good, as again, more frostbite things. Frostbite is very, very good. It's where most of our damage comes from. Same thing with frostbite shackles. Frostbite, very, very good. So anything that gives us bonuses to frostbite is fantastic. Usanui's Sphere gives us a bit of increased single target with the water orbs. Water orbs are very, very good. It's also very easy to get legendary potential on Usanui's Sphere. So we also get 3 LPs pretty frequently, so slamming the 3 LPs is relatively easy. Getting increased damage over time is very, very nice, because all our damage comes from damage over time. As for these, we have Throne of Ambition. Throne of Ambition is very, very good. Throne of Ambition buff is nice. As for all of the other idols, we're just getting Vitality and Bow damage on these ones. These ones are fixing resistances, as well as giving some health on kill. Same with the small ones, they're just fixing resistances, they don't really matter for now. And blessings, I haven't really gone and farmed blessings yet, so you can ignore that for the most part. That's the build in a nutshell. Fire a bunch of Heartseekers. Heartseekers give us a bunch of buffs. We want to shift, which will trigger our shurikens. Shurikens give us a bunch of armor and damage. And then we have Smoke Cloud to give us a bunch of Smoke Cloud buffs that they like to give. That's a general idea. Okay, back to the more in-depth video where I go on for like an hour talking. If, however, you get the general idea of the build and that's all you need to know, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. Otherwise, have fun with the whole video. So, first things first, we'll look at our passive tree, shall we? So this is a level, I think I'm level 97? Yeah, I'm 97 currently. So there is essentially a plan to go all the way to 100 for this. I will leave my planner in the description box for it. It's not going to go over all the leveling and things, it's just going to be what I have currently. The video itself will kind of explain how to level up to here. Generally speaking, I would say level with something else, like Heartseeker is not a good leveling thing, because one, you don't unlock it until you have 30 points in there anyway. But it's also just, it needs gear to get going well. So I would level with Falconer and then just swap over later. But as far as passives, first in Rogue, we have 1 point in Swift Assassin, that is just to unlock these ones later. 8 points into Steady Hand. The main reason this is here is for the dexterity stacking. The health is nice, but the dexterity is the main reason I'm grabbing it. Guile, same thing, it's just unlocking Evasion. Evasion is very nice. Damage taken while moving is -20, you're pretty much always moving with Heartseeker. So it's pretty much just a flat 20% damage reduction. You also have a 25% increased dodge rating, which is nice. And then we have Agility, gives us a chance of haste on hit. 25% chance of getting haste is really good, it just makes you faster, and being faster is good. We also have 1% increased damage per 1% increased movement speed, and generally speaking, we are sitting at about 93% movement speed. That goes up a bit, obviously, when we get haste, which we are getting pretty frequently by actually hitting with our attacks. So when we hit, we actually get, there you go. Trying to actually get it to trigger, but we go up to 123% movement speed when we actually trigger haste. So that is always good. Further on here, we get Lethal Cadence. Every third melee, throwing, or bow attack deals increased damage. This is just nice to have. I have 3 points in this currently. You need 3 points to get to the bleed. It's the main reason we've got it. I was tempted to get more of this, just for straight damage, but I'm not sure it's going to be worth it. I think there's some points in Marksman that I'm going to take later instead, but we'll see. But this one here, we have Disembowel. Every third non-channeling melee throwing or bow attack also inflicts bleed. So this is just giving us more bleed stacks. You get 5 bleed stacks every third attack. Bleed is very good in this build for multiple reasons. One, we're doing a damage over time build, so any ailment that we do that is doing damage over time is getting scaled by our multiplier. So doing bleed is good, doing poison is good, doing frostbite is good. We want to do all 3 of them. But also, bleeding chance is also, well, I guess this doesn't give you bleeding chance, so I'll talk about that later when it's relevant. This just does stacks of bleeding every third hit. But as I said, we have a very high multiplier on our damage over time, so bleed is good. Next, I will go over the Blade Dancer stuff. We have here Cloak of Shadows, you have additional dexterity, and you have a chance to receive Glancing Blow when hit. So the Glancing Blow chance is very nice, but once again, this is mainly here for dexterity. We want to do a fair amount of dexterity stacking on this for reasons I'll go into later, but just know if there are places where you can get dexterity, it's good to take. And we are taking this here purely for the global damage over time. Global damage over time is relatively rare to get on the passive tree, so I take it where I can get it, and I can get it here. So this bleed chance per sword and poison chance per dagger is meaningless because we're using a bow. However, the global damage over time is nice to have. And then finally we have the marksman tree, which is where the vast majority of our points are going. 8 out of 8 here. This is for health and bow attack speed. Bow attack speed is very, very good. The faster you're firing, the better, essentially, because you're just going to be doing more damage. We have 8 out of 8 points here, again, mainly for the dexterity. Having said that, you also get a few nice things like the haste after you use your evade skill, which is quite nice, and the dodge rating is also quite nice. The dodge rating reduction when you hit an enemy is quite nice. Next up, we grab elemental arrows here. The main reason I have elemental arrows isn't so much for the elemental arrows, which seems weird, but let me elaborate. When you use a bow, when you have a bow equipped, you gain 1 elemental arrow per second up to a maximum of 3. Using a bow attack expends an elemental arrow to deal additional fire damage or lightning damage. That's great, and the 3 extra damage, whatever, I'll take it. However, the main reason this is here is this. When you can hold additional elemental arrows, and you gain ward per elemental arrow when you use them. So this is here because we want some ward generation. This build, particularly the way I have built it, is not hardcore friendly at all. I have no fucking health at all. And I have, when there's a lot of enemies, I have a lot of ward. When there is doing a boss fight, avoid the big attacks, otherwise you will die. It's pretty much the answer to that question. But when we're clearing, this ward per elemental arrow used is very, very good because it's consistent ward generation, which is helping the survivability a bit. Next up we have here, which is Prolonged Demise. Again, damage over time. Taking gets lower, but you also do damage over time while wielding a bow. We're wielding a bow, therefore the damage over time is very good. 1 point into Concentration. Concentration is nice. Essentially, it's just a buff that you get. It gives you more damage. The main reason we're taking it, though, is for the additional buffs further here. Notably, a bunch of dodge rating. Dodge is very, very good as a survival mechanic. The main problem we're going to run into on this build is one-shots. Therefore, if you have dodge rating and you just don't get hit by a big slam, you're good. If you dodge the attack, you take no damage. If you take no damage, you survive. Next up, we also take 5 out of 5 points here, which increases the dodge rating with concentration even more, and increases our movement speed with concentration. But notably, if you put 4 points in here, you take less hits damage taken when you have concentration, so it gives you even more survivability. So if you do actually get hit and you miss the dodge, there's less chance that you get the one-shot. And as long as you're surviving one-shots in this build, you're pretty much okay. Its biggest weakness is one-shots, which I will potentially fix if I keep going with this and get better gearing, but we'll see. 10 out of 10 points in barbed arrows. This here just gives bleed chance when you're hitting with a bow. That's very nice. 50% bleed chance is very good. You also get some increased physical damage, which is largely meaningless. I'm doing this for the bleed chance. And also, once you put 5 points in here, you get physical res shred. Again, this isn't really relevant, but we are technically doing some physical damage, so it's fine, I guess. Moving down, we have Arrow Storm. 1 point into Arrow Storm, mainly so we can get covering fire, but Arrow Storm is, again, a buff that you get. You gain Arrow Storm, which increases your bow attack speed for 3 seconds. You can only gain Arrow Storm once every 10 seconds. It's a pretty good buff. It gives you a bunch of increased attack speed every 3 seconds per 10-second cooldown. We're also getting the same effect of Arrow Storm from our weapon. I'll go over that in a minute, but essentially we have a lot of attack speed all the time because of the 2 things we have going. But the main reason we want that is covering fire. When you proc Arrow Storm, you gain a stack of Silver Shroud. Silver Shroud is a buff that gives you a 100% chance to dodge the next hit. Dodging a hit with Silver Shroud consumes all stacks, granting you 100 ward per stack. So every time we hit Arrow Storm, so once every 10 seconds, we get 10 Silver Shroud stacks. If we get hit, we lose the Silver Shroud stacks, but we gain a bunch of ward, which gives us some survivability. And then next up, we have Ethereal Arrows. I don't really care about Ethereal Arrows. It's nice, I guess. But the main reason we're getting it is so we can go on to the next point, which is Master Archer. And this is just for the recurve chance on Heartseeker. You get 40% recurve chance. And what recurve chance is, if I fire one arrow, you see every time it changes direction, it has a chance every time it changes direction. It's doing a recurve, as it were. So the higher the recurve chance, the more damage it does, because the single arrow hits more times, is the general idea. But that is all our points. As far as the last 3 points that I'm going to unlock, I think my current plan was to chuck them in one more into here, and then leaves us with 2 more points, and I think I was going to throw it into here for attack speed, was my general plan. It also gives us some physical damage, which I don't really care about. I might take Lethal Cadence up to 5. Either I'm going to take the attack speed up on Swift Assassin, or we're going to take Lethal Cadence up to 5. One or the other. And also we're going to take the 10th point into Blood Serpent's Blades, just so we can get more global damage over time, because damage over time is where most of our damage is coming from. Moving on to the skills we're using. We have Heartseeker. It's currently level 24. The 24 comes just from 4 to Heartseeker. You get a T7 level to Heartseeker. Will give you +4 levels on Heartseeker. And increase your bow attack speed as well, which is quite nice. But the 4 levels of Heartseeker is quite nice. Back again. So, Heartseeker. We're going cold arrows. So you come down here against all odds. Heartseeker cannot be dodged, and it deals more damage. This is quite nice. You only need 1 point for cannot be dodged. So that's pretty huge, to be honest. Just making it so things can't be dodged is actually kind of useful. But coming down here is what we really like, which is we turn Heartseeker into a cold damage skill. So it converts it from a physical damage skill to a cold damage skill, and the bleed chance gets changed to frostbite chance, which is very, very, very good. And we also take Icy Impaler. Heartseeker's hits have a higher chance to freeze and have a chance to chill on hit. The main reason I'm taking this is for the chill chance. It's just a very easy way to get chill chance. If I somehow get some even more baller gear later, and I get some chill chance on weapons, for instance, I would probably actually drop this point and put it somewhere else. But for now, it's good just to have that chill chance on there. The freeze rate is also nice, I suppose, but the amount of freeze rate you get here compared to where you get the multiplier later on, it's irrelevant. Moving on, we take 2 points into Bloodseeker. You leech a portion of Heartseeker's damage and has an additional chance to recurve. So you are healing 1% of the damage it deals. That's not a whole lot, but it is doing quite a lot of damage. Notably in last Epoch, I'm pretty sure you leech damage off damage over time. So leech is actually quite good in last Epoch. And you're also getting that additional recurve chance. Additional recurve chance is really good, so you want to get it pretty much anywhere you can. We're taking 2 points in here so we can unlock our travel node down to Hidden Skewer. Heartseeker has a chance to recurve, on recurve, to grant you Dark Shroud up to a maximum of 2 seconds. Dark Shroud grants 5% glancing blow chance and 50 dodge rating for 2 seconds. This effect can stack an unlimited number of times. So the general idea is you want to give yourself as many Dark Shroud as you can. Generally speaking, when we're killing things and running around and hitting things, we're generally sitting about 10 stacks of Dark Shroud. So 10 stacks gives us a 50% glancing blow chance and 500 dodge. It's pretty good. You have that pretty much all the time, which is quite nice. Moving on, we have Exposed. Heartseeker hits have a chance to apply Frailty and shred enemy armor, but it no longer seeks new targets when the first target dies. This is fine because we're also taking the next point. It's actually a huge damage loss if you take it normally, because seeking the new target is where a lot of the damage comes from Heartseeker. However, we are also taking it straight through. So when Heartseeker's target dies, it shoots out puncture at nearby enemies for each recurve it would have triggered after the target died. So if you hit the target once and it dies, and it would have recurved 6 more times, it will shoot out 6 puncture shots. And the puncture shots track very, very aggressively. So if you kill an enemy, those puncture shots are going to hit other enemies 100% of the time. They're not going to uselessly fly off. It's very nice. Now, moving up, we have Arrow Mastery. Heartseeker has an additional chance to recurve. The recurve chance is very nice, as I said. If I got the chill chance, I would probably take it out of here and add it into here for even more recurve chance. Would take us additional 10%, which is quite nice. This here, Woven Grass, gives us slow chance. It now twists around in a semicircle. That's just a visual effect. It doesn't actually do anything. It just makes it look a bit different, which is interesting for a point, but cool, I guess. But the main reason we're taking this is it gives a chance to slow. Chance to slow is good because it's doing another status effect. Status effects are very, very good on this build. Moving on, we have Shadow Weaver's Grass. It now has a minimum chance to recurve, which means there's a 66% chance minimum that it is recurving. So when you fire one, it's never not going to recurve, essentially. And then finally, we take Nimble Threads. Heartseeker has an additional chance to recurve, scaling with Dexterity. So you get 0.5% chance to recurve per Dexterity. We're stacking relatively highest Dexterity. I only have 45 at the moment. By the time I finish this build properly, I'm looking at about 90, I think. Somewhere between 90 and 110, I think, is probably where we're going to end up. I just don't have... I haven't got the gear yet to get to that kind of level. But we're just going to have a lot more recurves on our hit, essentially. Moving on. Going down here, Swift and Sure. Heartseeker has increased attack speed and cost less mana. This is mainly a travel node, just to get to the next node. However, it is also quite nice. The mana efficiency is nice. Occasionally, you will run into situations where you're running out of mana. If you fire a shitload of Heartseekers, you can run out of mana on this build, I have found. It tends to only happen on boss battles or when there's literally 100 monsters on your screen, and then when you've got 100 monsters on your screen, one dies, everything on the screen dies, and then it doesn't really matter because of the punctures that go off and does some damage. Next we have Heart Render. Heartseeker's hits have a chance to cause enemies to bleed, and bleed, it inflicts, penetrates enemy physical resistance, so it's just a guaranteed bleed on hit. And we're doing more damage over time. More damage over time is very, very good. That's where, as I said, most of our damage comes from, because we're doing a bunch of Frostbite, and Frostbite is a damage over time, and it is very, very good. Next up, we have Shift. It's a pretty regular Shift setup, I think. I think most people have this set up this way. I'm triggering Shurikens with it. I won't go over these as much. Heartseeker is the main one. Heartseeker and Puncture are the main ones in the build. The others I'll go a lot quicker when I go through them. Shift. It is a movement skill. The main things we want to do, we heal when we shift. We have invulnerability when we shift. We get some bonus dex after we've shifted the first time. Once again, shifting heals you. More health. You get a cleanse when you shift, so it gets rid of all the negative elements. Travel further and has a shorter cooldown. In fact, has a longer cooldown, but you travel further. But the main thing here is when we shift, we get Shurikens, which is another skill that we have going. It just summons 5 Shurikens, which is really, really nice whenever we shift. So, when I shift, you can see we have the Shurikens flying around me, and it triggers it. So I never really have to hit Shurikens manually. I can, obviously. But the main reason you shift and it'll give you all your Shurikens, which is the main reason we're using it. Next, we have Smoke Bomb. Once again, I feel like Smoke Bomb is... I mean, you're building Smoke Bomb for Smoke Bomb. I want it to have a big area, so you take the area nodes here and here. Chance to give you Dark Shroud. Dark Shroud is very powerful defensive, so giving stacks of Dark Shroud is good, and this just gives more Dark Shroud. Chance to slow enemies in the smoke. That's nice. Smoke Cloud lasts longer. The longer the Smoke Cloud's here, the more buffs you get from it. We have Crimson Shroud when you're in the Dust Cloud, so it increases our bleed chance even more, so we get even more bleed stacks. Going over here, Initial Blast applies Frailty. This doesn't really matter, but I guess it's nice, I suppose. But take down these 2 points here. Silver Shrouds, so everyone loves Silver Shrouds just as well. As many buffs as I can get on myself so that I don't die is fantastic. And then finally we have Cleansing Steam, which again, just like on Shift, we have a cleanse. So generally speaking, negative elements aren't going to matter on this build, because if you see the general way that we run around, and on cooldown, essentially, I'm going to shift, throw down a thing, kill all the enemies that go around, and then we'll have another shift. So every time, I'm doing like 2 shifts per Smoke Cloud. Generally speaking, I'm always going to be cleansing myself, so it doesn't really matter that negative elements on us. I'm just going to wipe them all constantly. They're never, damage over times, for instance, are never an issue, because by the time damage over time is actually doing damage to me, I've already cleared it. There's enough cleanse on this build that I never have to worry about cleanse, essentially. Any ailments on me will just disappear. As for the shurikens, I've made them pretty much lightning. I didn't make them fully lightning, just so they had some physical damage as well. I didn't really know what to put on these, to be perfectly honest. The main thing I wanted here was the blade wall, or the blade shield. So coming down here, you get increased attack speed, don't really care. Up through here, have a chance to pierce targets, that's very, very good. It means they don't dissipate after they hit a target, they will go through. Fan of Blades, you throw additional shurikens with each throw, that's fine, I guess. Blade Shield, you now summon your shurikens in a shield around you for 3 seconds. This effect does not stack. So you get a shield, lasts longer, and you get increased armor when you have the shield. So essentially, if we get hit and we don't dodge an attack, we have pretty good armor on this build, in fact, that we should live the one shot, is the hope. That's the main idea. And then we've come down here, I've made shurikens shock. Doesn't really matter. I mean, shocking doesn't even do all that much for me. Lightning resistance down makes the shurikens themselves do a bit more damage, but who cares? Mainly the chance to stun, which is kind of nice. Again, it's just another ailment you can chuck on. And then finally we have Scintillating Steel. I've just chucked 1 point in here because we had the point. Deals more damage. Great, I guess. And then finally, Puncture. So Puncture is also a lot of our damage. We have Puncture and we have Heartseeker. Heartseeker is doing the main amount of damage, but our clear is coming from Puncture, because after we kill an enemy with Heartseeker, it shoots out the Puncture, and the Puncture does quite a bit of damage. So we take 4 out of 4 points in timing. This just gives us a bunch of damage. It lowers the attack speed, but lowering the attack speed doesn't actually matter because Puncture is being triggered off Heartseeker. Since we're not firing it ourselves, the attack speed actually does nothing. So this is just 48% more damage, which is very good, obviously. Going to the left, we take Perforate, 2 points in that just to unlock the next node. That gives us some bleed chance. That's nice. For a reason I'll go into in a second. Essentially, this bleed chance is being converted to frostbite chance, which is cool. It means that we're doing more frostbite chance with Puncture. I love it. Next, we have Press the Attack. Attacking with Puncture and hitting at least one enemy grants Frenzy. It's a very short duration of Frenzy, it's only 1 second. However, Frenzy gives you 20% increased attack speed and cast speed. It's fine, I guess. Going up here, Puncture has a chance to poison on hit, getting 20% chance there, and then finally we take Efficacious Poison. Puncture has a chance to apply Efficacious Toxin on hit, causing them to take increased damage over time. So it's just a debuff on the enemies that increases their damage over time taken. We are doing mainly damage over time. It's very good. Next, the right side of the tree, we take Splinter. Puncture has a chance to shred enemy physical resistance. We don't care about this at all, we just need the 2 points so that we can move on. Up to here, we do Redouble. When you use your bow, when used with a bow, Puncture deals more hit damage. That's nice, but again, we don't have enough points to actually put 2 points in here, so we're going to move on. Shatter. Puncture has a chance to shred enemy armor. This is nice, but I don't really care, as I said. It's fine, I guess. Moving down to this bottom corner is where we start to like these abilities. We have Debilitation. Puncture hits deal more damage, multiplicative with other modifiers, per unique negative ailment on the target. I want more points in this, if I can. If I could somehow get leveled to Puncture, don't know how I'd pull that off easily with gear. Honestly, I'm not sure, but if I could find ways to get more points in here, I would. In fact, it may even be worth taking out some points from timing to put into Debilitation, because it's very good. Essentially, I'm doing a lot of ailments on the target, and we're doing 7% more multiplicative with each other as well, which is quite nice, per ailment on the enemy. And if I took this all the way to 5, every enemy has at least 5 ailments on them, so it will be taking 7 times multiplicative every time. That's very good. Moving on, we have Seized Prey. Puncture hits deal more damage against slowed and immobilized enemies. We are slowing with... One of the main reasons I take Woven Grasp here is just to get the slow chance, because it makes the punctures do more damage. It's very nice. Immobilized enemies, there aren't often enemies that are immobilized, but it does occasionally happen. And when they are, they also take more damage, which is fine, I suppose. But we take it down to here to Inescapable. Puncture hits deal more hit damage per stack of slow on the target. So once again, since we're slowing, we're doing more damage to slowed enemies. So that's about it for the skills. That took a while, but we got through it all. Now moving on to the gear. Now, you'll see I am using Gathering Fury here. You may be asking why I'm not using Reign of Winter. The main reason I am not using Reign of Winter is simply because Reign of Winter is harder to get with higher legendary potential. I am kind of farming one. I think if I got a 3 or 4... 4's not happening, let's be honest. But if I got a 3 LP Reign of Winter, arguably, I would use that instead. Because it does, as you can see, the bow cold damage is very good. Spell cold damage, doesn't really matter. Cold pen, nice. Chance to cast icicles on bow hit, makes the clear a lot better. It does give you 10 attunement, which is a problem later. I will go into that, why that is a problem later in a second. But essentially, we just want the... I can go over it right now, I suppose. The reason that the attunement is a problem is because you want your attunement and your intelligence to be equal, because we're using Usanui's sphere. So when you're doing single target, you do more water orbs if you have equal attunement and intelligence. So we would have to find, essentially, whatever attunement you get on your Reign of Winter, you have to find a way of getting an equal amount of intelligence on something else, which is just stats that you don't really need. The intelligence isn't really doing anything for you. Neither is the attunement, really. So it's just kind of wasted stats, which is a shame and something you have to work around. But Reign of Winter is very good. It's a lot more flat damage, which is better, arguably. However, Gathering Fury is very easy to get at 3 LP. I've rolled a shitload of them at 3 LP already. And we can get some very good things on a 3 LP Gathering Fury. Plus, Gathering Fury, I think, is actually better single target as well, I will say. Just because, one, the attack speed is huge. As you can see, when you directly use your bow ability, you hit an enemy, gain 5% increased attack speed for 3 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. You can have 50% increased attack speed pretty much always when you're using Gathering Fury. It's pretty cool. And when you hit using a bow ability, you have a 10% chance for it to repeat. That's on a 1 second cooldown. I'm hitting things fast enough when you have your stacked up attack speed that it's essentially going off every second. Every second I'm getting 2, essentially. As long as I'm hitting enemies, every second I'm doing a secondary thing, which is just more damage. Obviously, if you fire an additional bow attack, you're doing more damage. Now, the downside is that Gathering Fury does base lightning damage rather than base cold damage, but honestly, comparing the differences between them, it's very hard to see much of a difference, I will say. I think, generally speaking, Reign of Winter is better for clear, and Gathering Fury is better for single target, but unless you get a Reign of Winter that has 3 LP, it's probably not going to be better than a 3 LP Gathering Fury in general, I would say. It's like, this is still better for clear because of the icicles. The icicles do a lot of damage and a lot of clear. They're great. The issue is the clear is not so much faster that I can be bothered swapping. But if you don't mind doing weapon swapping as you're going, you can clear with a Reign of Winter, and then you can swap out to your Gathering Fury when you do a boss fight if you really want. I cannot be bothered with that shit. I do not care. But as you can see, as for the slamming that I've done for the Gathering Fury, increased bow damage, pretty much a no-brainer. Increased bow attack speed, again, pretty much no-brainer. We have chance to poison on hit. Chance to bleed is just as good, essentially. You want effectively 100% bleed chance and 100% poison chance, which we have on this build. I think we're actually sitting at, with Heartseeker, I think I'm 154% bleed and like 100% poison. So it's quite nice. It just, a lot of damage over time is the main thing. Next up we have Snowblind. Now, Snowblind is very easy to get with 3 LP. Very easy to get with 3 LP. And it's so good. I mean, I have a shit one. Freeze rate multiplier, I only have 78. It goes all the way up to 200. Cold resistance is nice, whatever, I don't really care. Chance to blind with cold skills. Chance to chill with cold skills. Both fantastic. Both really required for this build because, again, more ailments is better. You want to chill as much as possible. You want to blind as much as possible. The more chills you get, the more freezes you get. If things are frozen, they're not attacking you. If they're not attacking you, fantastic. But notably, 17% more armor against blinded enemies and 70% more blinded armor against chilled enemies. You're also immune to blind and chill. That's a nice bonus. But those two there, the more armor against blinded and chilled enemies, everything's going to be blinded and chilled. You're hitting things enough that everything is going to be blinded and chilled. which means you essentially just have, 34% increased armor? Not increase, more. 34% more armor, so it's multiplicative. You get a fair amount of armor on this build, which means, again, you're taking around 40 to 50% damage from most hits, if you actually get hit. So the ideal response is you dodge things. If you don't dodge it, you hit it, and then the damage gets reduced with your armor down to about 50% what you would have taken, so you don't get one shot. That's the general idea. As for the slamming, increased damage while wielding a bow, good. Dexterity, good. As I said, stacking dexterity is quite good. It gives us higher recurve chance. Higher recurve chance is just more damage. And then finally we have increased health on that as well. Unfortunately, it slammed the shitty tier 3 increased health rather than, I can't remember what else I tried to slam on this, but it was like another tier 6 or something. It was much better. But I do need to upgrade that at some point. Let's go down to the chest piece. Woven flesh. Now, there is a huge amount of chest pieces you can use with this build. The only reason I'm using the woven flesh is because I happen to get a LP3 woven flesh. It's relatively rare. It's like a 1 in 700 or something. This was literally the first woven flesh that ever dropped for me. It was 3 LP. It's hard to say no to that. It's a pretty good chest piece. It gives 222 armor. You want a fair amount of armor on your chest piece. 4% increased health, very good. Overkill damage leeches health, whatever. 38% increased damage leeches health. Cool, I am doing some leech, so that's nice. 22% increased leech rate, again, quite good. Notably, 100% critical strike avoidance. So I'm immune to crit with this chest piece, which is kind of huge. But the main thing you want for your chest piece is you need +4 levels to Heartseeker. That's pretty much required. And then anything else is great. So we have increased health, and I got the shitty lightning resistance on this, unfortunately. I think the other thing I had on here was like increased bow damage or something. It was something very good. I can't remember specifically what it was, but it was another prefix that was quite good. I think I had 2 T7s on this and only slammed one of them, unfortunately. So I lost the 50-50, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, woven flesh, not required. I would say probably go for something that has a high chance of getting legendary potential. Euron's Wisdom is quite good, it gives you a lot of health. Kestrel, interesting as well. Doesn't give you a lot of armor, but gives you some more dodge and movement speed is great. It also gives you plus level dexterity skills. I'm pretty sure every single one of my skills is a dexterity skill. So it will give you plus levels, which is nice. Core of the Mountain, also possibly quite good, because you can get plus to all stats. Stat stacking is quite good. I think eventually I want to run 2 red rings, if I can get them to drop. They are incredibly rare, as you know, I'm sure. But red rings are very, very good, but you need 180 stats to get the damage reduction. So, more stats is good. Again, pretty much anything here would be really good. Null Portent, great, I suppose. The 1% less damage taken for overcap resistances, you could probably get overcap resistances from somewhere. And that's a lot of defense. Wall of Nothing, more ward, great, I guess. Like, pretty much anything that gives you some good defensive capabilities is really good, and ideally you want something where you can get a bunch of LP. That's why I suggest Euron's Wisdom. It's pretty easy to get high LP on it. I have some woven fleshes here in case I want to try and get some better rolls, but I don't think I'm ever hitting 3 LP again. 3 LP, it's like 1 in 700, 1 in 800, I think. So it's pretty rare that I got this on my first try, so I just kind of got lucky. Moving on to the belt, ignore the belt. The belt is trash right now. I'm going to find something better. I'm going to replace it eventually. Same with my rings, for that matter. Ideally, I think I'm going to hit a point where I want 2 red rings with dexterity slammed on top of them. But as it stands now, they're kind of just fixing some resistances for me. They're kind of irrelevant for the most part. I'm using silver rings just because I like the movement speed. But yeah, the rings and the belt currently not finished, not relevant. Put what you can in here to fix any problems you have with the build for now. Eventually, I think I will probably use... Alright, we're back. Elicor's Innovation potentially is my base I'm thinking of using, or the Brewmaster one as well. I don't know if I have an example to show you of the Brewmaster one. I don't. Seemingly. But the Brewmaster's Buckle is also another one I've been considering. They're interesting. The main thing I want on the belt is just it. I want stats to fix resistances and things is the main reason I want one. So I'm gonna slam a couple of stats onto a random unique belt. I don't quite know what I want yet. Moving on, let's go over the boots first. Snowdrifts. So these are relatively hard to get anything above 2 LP. And I feel like movement speed is mandatory for at least 1 LP on any boots you make. So we're always going to have a T7 movement speed on any boots that I suggest, ever. So you got increased movement speed in Snowdrift. I happen to get dodge rating on these as well, which is fine, I guess. I think I was going for dexterity or vitality or something. But whatever, I'll take this. But the Snowdrifts. Chance to apply Frostbite on hit. That's quite nice to have just off the bat. 1% penetration with Frostbite per 10% freeze rate multiplier. So as I said earlier, you want to get to 1000% freeze rate multiplier. The reason being is that you will then have 100% cold penetration with your Frostbite damage. Frostbite is most of our damage. Therefore, cold penetration is fantastic. It means it just will go straight through the enemy's resistances. Dodge rating while you evade. Fine, I guess. I don't really care about that stat all that much. Flat cold damage with spells and attacks, that is quite nice. And increased movement speed per 2 dexterity up to 20. You're going to have enough movement speed when you're building this that this is just going to be 20% flat, always, because you only need 40 dex. Ideally, you're going to be around 90 to 100 dex, so that should be fine. Next, we have the glove. Frostbite Shackles. So, chance to apply Frostbite on hit. That's very nice. As I said before, Frostbite is our main source of damage. The more that you're applying, the better. Increased Frostbite duration. This is technically increased damage. It's only really noticeable on bosses because most things are dying before the Frostbite actually finishes on most other things, but it is very nice to have because it's just 25% increased Frostbite duration just means more damage with Frostbite. Freeze rate multiplier. That is very, very good to have. Ward gained on freeze is fine. I am freezing pretty frequently, so this is probably more useful than I'm giving it credit for, but I'm not really noticing it. I'm sure it's doing its job, but I'm not really noticing it. And you have 1% ward retention per 2% uncapped cold resistance, so you can actually stack some cold resistance to get higher ward retention. I wouldn't really bother. If you have some room, go for it, I suppose, but for the most part, I don't really think that's necessary. Moving on, we have Usnui's. Oh, also, I've added freeze rate multiplier on here. Ideally, I'm going to get some Frostbite Shackles that have 2 LP. In fact, I might already, even? No, I don't. I thought I did, but I guess not. The plan being... I could have sworn I did, actually. Maybe it was the Snowdrift I was thinking about. Anyway, the plan eventually is to get 2 LP on this and to add some dex on there as well, just to get some more dex scaling. Usnui's Sphere. It is pretty easy to get this with 3 LP. 3 LP is very nice on this. There's a few notable things this gives you. It gives you cold resistance, lightning resistance, that's fine. Mana, that's fine. 100% chance to cast Water Orb when you hit a boss or rare enemy, 3-second cooldown. This is just more single target damage. More single target damage is very, very good. If you have Attunement and Intelligence to be the same, you do 3 Water Orbs per cast, which is just 3 times the damage with your Water Orbs. That's obviously better. But we also get 30% increased cold and lightning damage for each Water Orb you have cast in the past 12 seconds. What this means is that on bosses, we ramp up to a damage point, and then we're doing more damage. Notably more damage. Because you do a lot of water orbs. What are you doing? Every 3 seconds you do 3. So 3 4s are 12. 3 12s. 360% increased cold damage. And lightning damage for that matter. So Gathering Fury does lightning damage. So we're also... It's quite good. It's quite good. Let's just put it that way. As for the Slam, increased damage over time. It's kind of necessary. We need sources of increased damage over time. The Void Resistance, whatever, don't care. Chance to apply Frailty on hit, don't care. Ideally, I wanted some Bleed chance on here, Poison chance on here, damage over time, damage with bow, anything that gives you a bunch of damage, essentially. Moving on to the quiver, we have Troaka's Teeth. 72% chance to apply Frostbite on bow hit. Again, Frostbite is very good, so chances to apply it are very good. Flat cold damage, very nice. Freeze rate multiplier, very nice. Increased cold damage, very nice. 100% of bleed and poison chance converted to Frostbite chance with puncture. So, as I was talking about before, bleed and poison are very nice to have, particularly on puncture, because when you do your puncture that is triggered off your Heartseeker, all of the punctures are going to have huge amounts of Frostbite that they apply, because all of the poison and bleed chance go into Frostbite chance. So you're doing, I think, with my build currently, I think if I hit with one puncture, the one puncture does like, it's something stupid. It's like, it's so many stacks of Frostbite at once. It's so many. So that's fantastic. And also, it's usually getting hit by multiple punctures at once because it fires them all out in kind of a fan a lot of the time. So you end up just doing a lot of Frostbite. And we also have freeze rate with puncture. That's nice. More freezing is good. As for the slam, we got increased bow attack speed. I feel like attack speed is necessary on both the quiver and the base bow. Everything else, it's great, I guess. Increased damage is nice. Increased cold damage is nice. Bow damage is nice. Chance to bleed is good. Chance to poison is good. But really, the bow attack speed is really quite nice. And then finally, we have the Apostate Sanctuary. So, the main reason we're doing this, we get Vitality, 2 health per Vitality. So I'm also kind of stacking Vitality is the only real way I'm getting health. And as you can see, let me just go here. I have no health. I have 1800 health. It's nothing. The ward retention is okay, and I'm getting enough ward that a lot of the time I'm sitting at effective health pool of like 3,000 to 6,000, depending on how many enemies I'm fighting. So it's not as squishy as it looks because we actually do generate a fair amount of ward. However, it's not much health. But with this, and hopefully getting some vitality on some other pieces as well, this will actually stack our health high enough that I'm not as squishy, because this is, I'm still pretty squishy. Occasionally I do just get one shot. It's rare, but it does happen. 40% of current health and ward lost whenever you directly cast a spell. We are never directly casting a spell, that doesn't matter, we only use attacks. Health leech is disabled for 4 seconds when we directly cast a spell. As I said, we never directly cast a spell, so that doesn't matter. And we also get 8 ward per second per 1% uncapped physical resistance while channeling Rebuke. This does nothing, we're never channeling Rebuke, obviously. However, we also get 11% more damage to bosses and rare enemies, that goes up to 14%, so that's just more damage, which is fantastic. Damage over time is one of the main things you want on this, I would say, for prefixes when you're slamming. Damage over time can go quite high on amulets, and it's one of the best stats you can actually put on an amulet for it. And I've also gotten ward per second with some ward decay threshold. The other thing is ward on kill, I think, is also probably pretty good on this. Just anything that gives me a bit more survivability is what I was going for. But it's fine, I suppose. As for the idols, is pretty much the last thing I need to go over. We have Throne of Ambition. Throne of Ambition is just fantastic. Ambition is a really good buff. Gives you more cold damage. We're doing a lot of cold damage, so that's fantastic. More armor, fantastic. It's just good. It makes single target fights more survivable, and you do more damage, which is just fantastic. Moving on to the other idols. For my tall idols, or my 1x3s, I suppose. What are they called? Stout idols. We have health on kill, elemental resistance. Health on kill, damage over time. The damage over time and chance to apply frailty is quite nice, I suppose, but the main thing here is the damage over time. And then we have our 3x1s, or humble idols. Again, Weaver idols are just better than the other ones, so just use Weaver idols. Honestly, you could probably just get rid of the other ones, they're trash by comparison. Vitality and bow damage, vitality and bow damage, vitality and bow damage. Health on kill and some poison resistance. This is only here because I need the poison resistance. As soon as we can get that from some other place, we're probably just going to do another vitality and bow damage. And then for the small ones, we have dodge rating necrotic resistance. This is mainly here for their necrotic resistance. Damage over time, physical resistance. Could be better. It could be the better version of the damage over time node. Dodge rating, poison resistance, and then damage over time, poison resistance. Obviously, these could be better because they could be the Weaver versions that give you better stuff. but these little ones are mainly for fixing some resistances that I have. I think that's about it. I can go over my blessings, but my blessings are by no means good currently. But we have ward gained on kill. I'm going to change this eventually. All res, again, going to change this eventually. Armor. The flat armor is probably fine, but I feel like I'm going to change this eventually as well. Freeze rate, perch, stack of chill. This is very, very good. I like this one a lot. And then we have increased cold damage. Again, increased cold damage is very, very good, so I'll probably keep those. That's about it for what I've been doing in last Epoch. That was probably a very long video, and it's probably just a big, long video of me talking. So I think maybe we'll do a summary at the start, so that you don't have to watch the whole damn thing if you don't want to. I guess the other thing I can go over is my appearance. Storm Talon Crown, that comes from the new pack. Thunderfang chest, Thunderfang gloves, Thunderfang boots, we have the ice footprints, we have the storm wings, and my Tempest gate, I guess. I do have some other things, I guess. My dodge is the Cherry Blossom dodge. Cherry Blossom evade. My shurikens are the holy shurikens, because why not? Heartseeker is the Chain of Torment Heartseeker, which makes it look kind of cool, in my opinion. I like that one quite a lot. The only big one I would say here is actually Smoke Bomb. The Cherry Blossom Smoke Bomb is, like, actually pay to win. Just for reference, you can see perfectly exactly where the boundary is, so you always know when you're in it. If I take that off, and I show you what it looks like without it, this is way less clear to me where the actual edge of the smoke cloud is. I feel like the Cherry Blossom one, it's legitimately pay to win. You can see better where the actual edge of your ability is, so I feel like that's just pay to win. But yeah, other than that, I've been having a lot of fun with this build. I'm sure I've been showing some footage in the background of me just running maps. As far as where I'm actually up to, I'm only running like 300 corruption, so I'm not doing anything crazy. It's all pretty easy stuff. I feel like I could probably push up to 500 without much issue currently, but I am having fun with it. As you can see, everything tends to get frozen pretty quickly, and I'm sitting at like 2,000 ward. As you're clearing, that's pretty standard. Seems like a pretty standard thing that I'm going to be sitting at about 2,000 to 6,000 ward, depending on how many enemies I'm killing at a particular time. Things tend to get frozen pretty quickly. I'm terrified of that beam. That beam does more damage than anything else in the fucking game. But it's great, I guess. It's a pretty fun playstyle, in my opinion. For the most part, you can just keep moving, shooting things. They'll be taking damage over time as you're running, and they will die. You get big groups like this. Sometimes the Heartseeker will... If you fire a bunch of Heartseekers, occasionally they'll just go to all different enemies, so the enemies will take a while to die, but as soon as one dies, the punctures go off and everything dies. So it tends to sort itself out pretty quickly. And as you can see, the single target is pretty good, just because the damage over time is kind of nice, you know? And as you can see, I live the one shot, and if you live the one shot, usually that's enough to actually live, you know? Pick all that up. But yeah, I'm quite liking it for the most part. There's a blue wizard up here. Sure. But so far so good. I'm quite enjoying it. that's the general idea. Run around very fast. Have pretty good movement speed most of the time. You can run past a lot of stuff because you have dodge. Get a big pack going. Kill one enemy, explode into the punctures, do a bunch of damage with the puncture, and then win. It is quite satisfying. I like the feel. As I said, only like 300 corruption. I need some better gear. There's like, notably, a bunch of things that my slams have gone poorly, but at the same time, I'm pretty happy with it. I've killed all the bosses. Aberoth is dead. Obviously, Uber Aberoth I have not killed. But yeah, I quite like the general playstyle of the build. It's quite fun to play. The only other thing worth noting as well is that I have decoy on my bar. I haven't leveled decoy at all. I just have decoy on my bar because decoy is kind of nice. Just being able to, notably against like exiled mages and things, when they're spawning, you just throw out a decoy and they'll go for the decoy. It gives you some free damage. It's mainly for a distraction more so than it is for the explosion damage or anything like that. It's just to pull aggro off you for a second if you've got an enemy that potentially does enough damage that it can one-shot you, you know? But lots of freezing, lots of frostbite, lots of bleed, lots of poison. And quite fast. At least it feels fast to me. But that's the general idea. If you like the video, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye, guys.